of her stepfather, Miles Evans. Soon after Zoe went missing, he'd appeared at a police news conference sobbing in apparent sorrow. Such public appearances are becoming an almost routine feature of murder investigations. In most cases, people who appeal for witnesses are genuinely grief-stricken and entirely innocent. But it looks as if the police are increasingly using such conferences to help unmask the guilty, like Miles Evans. Richard Lindley has tonight's special report.
Each one of these people holding a police press conference appealed for help in finding the killers of a loved one. All of them turned out in the end to be the killers themselves.
My interest is to catch the killers of my wife.
The setting is plain enough, but what happens in these police press conferences can be highly theatrical. A drama in which killers can find themselves trapped in their own carefully plotted productions. Gordon Wardell claimed a gang of robbers had killed his wife and left him bound and drugged.
How can a killer, asked a question about the killer, describe them as totally evil, knowing it's him?
I think, particularly with cold calculating killers like that, they've thought this through. One of the great illusions that the public have is that you can look at a film of someone at a press conference and say, like that, he's telling the truth or he's lying. The fact is that non-verbal cues, what people do as opposed to what they say, are just not a very good guide.
Who would have guessed that Derek Fleming, apparently overcome with grief at his press conference, had murdered his own daughter?
We all love you, and we want you all with us.
Killers are capable of deception on the grand scale. While student John Tanner took part in a police reconstruction of her disappearance, the girl he'd strangled lay dead beneath the floorboards. Without enough evidence to arrest him, police let reporters ask the questions.
Mr. Tanner, have you felt under a lot of pressure personally, having been the last person to see Rachel?
It's been upsetting because it was the last time I saw her.
One of the ways in which they try and get people to incriminate themselves is through the press conference. And so the police will unashamedly use the media if they think that the person they suspect of the offence is likely to incriminate themselves.
Press conferences can reveal flaws in a killer's story. As she began to contradict herself about the timing of what she said was a road rage attack, Tracy Andrews held the hand of the mother of the man she'd stabbed to death.
By being there and pretending I was on her side and holding her hand and supporting her, she dropped herself in it, or the press said something, and she said something without realising what she'd said. That was enough for me, because I just wanted the truth to come out.
Police press conferences can trap the guilty, but that must make grieving relatives asked to make a televised appeal for witnesses think twice. They know now we'll be wondering, did they do it? Among these entirely innocent relatives, will we ever learn how to spot the killers and their lies?
And we can look for the classic signals that liars give off. They tend to give shorter answers, there's more hesitation, there's a longer gap between the end of the question, the beginning of the answer, as they think through what the lie is. They tend to engage in a lot of eye contact, overcompensating for the notion that liars will look away. They tend to shift around in their seat and use lots of hand gestures.
At the moment, we just can't be sure who's guilty and who's innocent. But we may get better at telling whether those who are crying are lying too. Richard Lindley, News at 10, Birmingham.
Now football, the Scotland manager Craig Brown signed a new